Hey, everybody, and welcome to part 4 of our Empowered Visionary School Leadership webinar series. I'm so happy that you're here, and today we're going to talk about beyond the classroom, what you can do to be that visionary school leader in your community. So let's get right to it. Oh, before we get started, make sure you've got your workbook close by and your favorite pens or markers or your favorite device to take notes on, because we're going to be covering a lot of things today, and get ready for a lot of questions from me to you so you can consider. So yeah, hope you're comfy, got something to drink, have some snacks, you're feeling comfortable, and let's go. So today, part 4 is about beyond the classroom. So we've talked about in the classroom and with your team and your families. So now let's look a little beyond that. Schools and programs that serve children and families are very much a foundational piece in any community, right? So also are businesses and other organizations and people who may not have children in your school, but there are possibilities to make connections. So today we're going to talk a little bit about that, right? First, we're going to talk about what needs our attention in our school, right? Once we know, okay, what do we need to focus around and on and collaborate with, and what do we need, what are we missing, then we can begin to think, where can we reach out into the community to fill in those gaps that maybe we're missing, or to forge ahead and build those connections and those relationships with others who are interested in being a part of supporting that foundational piece in their community. And part of the first piece in doing that is figuring out what needs my attention now. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. And we'll also talk about the shifting landscapes, right? Like, are you reaching the people in the way that is the best, right? So we'll talk a little bit about what are you doing right now around technology and communicating and advertising and marketing and communicating and sharing what it is that you do in your program and what makes it special in the neighborhood. We'll also talk about how you can make those connections, right? How do you make that phone call? Who do you call, right? So we'll talk about that. And then we'll kind of turn in just a little bit to take a look at family engagement, right? How do we know from our people that we serve, the families that we serve, are we doing the best work that we can do? Are we meeting their needs? Are we helping to solve problems or create resources or connect to resources to the families that we serve? And that's a big chunk for today. So get ready. All right. So what needs your attention? There's so many things. As a leader, I know I've been there, and you've got a list of things to do that feels like it's this long, and you think, okay, I can get all this done today. And that's just not true. Right? Then raise a hand if you've been that person that thinks, let me just send one more email. Let me just do this one more thing before I go home. And then you find it's dark outside and you haven't gone home yet, right? You been there? Yep, me too. Well, let's take a look at prioritizing. What is the priority? What is the greatest need? Where can you have the biggest impact? So it's an art form. So let's talk about that. Let's write about that. So get your pen and your workbook and consider this. So I'll invite you to, in a minute, pause this webinar and then come back when you're done, and we'll keep going, right? So number 1, list 10 things that come to mind, like the first 10 things that come to mind when you think about, oh, I need to attend to that, or, oh, that's important, I want to take a look at that, or I would really love to take care of that or work on that or make that happen. What are those 10 things that come to mind? That's a lot, but I bet you that once 2 or 3 or 5 come, the rest will come. All right, so that's the first thing, 10 things. The next, number 2, is to star 3 of them. So as you're looking at your list of 10, really don't think hard about it. Just see the 3 that kind of jump off the page at you. Which are the 3 that you would say, yeah, this is important to do first, second, and third? Okay, that's step 3. So once you've starred 3 of them, then decide which is number 1, which is number 2, and which is number 3. Next, Okay, you're whittling it down, you're dividing it into bite-sized chunks, right? Next, put goal dates. So number one is purchase supplies for next school year, or update that job description, or update that job description and post it, right? Post that position that's open, or revisit our employee handbook, revisit our family handbook. It could be do a deep clean of the carpets and floors, or bark chips for the playground. You see how it could be all sorts of things, big projects and little projects, right? So when now you've decided what's number one, number two, number three, put some goal dates around it. Now remember, I believe we've already talked about SMART goals, and SMART goals are specific, measurable, attainable, they are relevant, and time-based, right? So you want to make sure, okay, am I putting a goal date that is reasonable? Is this something that I can attain? Because who wants to have goals and you put a date on it and you don't get it done? Sometimes you could feel really defeated when that happens. So let's not go there, okay? So put a goal date that is reasonable, right? This whole process you can do again with each of the 1, 2, and 3rd on your list of priorities. What are the smaller bite-sized chunks that need to happen to achieve your goal number 1 and your goal number 2 and your goal number 3, right? And under that, you can again use the what specifically do you need to do? How can you measure it? How do you know if you've done the thing that needs to be done, right? Is it attainable? Have you given yourself a goal that you can do reasonably, right? Is it relevant? Is it going to make the impact that you want it to make? And then time-based, that's where the goal date comes in, okay? So find your pause button, hit pause, and when you're ready to come on back, just hit play again, and we'll keep going, all right? Okay, you're back. Now you've got some plans ahead. Take a deep breath, because I know that was hard. Okay, hard to decide what's 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, I gotcha. I know that. So now here's another writing prompt. Okay, so as you're deciding what are your priorities, what's 1, what's 2, what's 3, what specifically do you plan to do, what is the goal date that you have, here's the next tool that you could use to dive deeper and get more specific and make your plan that is doable for you, okay? This is a method that I believe we've talked about before, and you can use in your coaching with the folks that you serve, or in helping your team come up with what is it that we want and how are we going to do it kind of conversation. You can use the VOTE method, VOTE, and it goes like this. So number 1, V stands for victory. What is it that you want? I want our playground to be safe. That's the victory, right? We'll use that as an example. O is the second part. What's the obstacle? What's getting in the way of your playground being safe? Our bark chips are old and need to be replaced. They're not as thick as they need to be because of licensing. So we need more bark chips, and we need it before school begins, or we need it before, what date? What's the obstacle, right? Next, and there may be 1 or 2 obstacles, but it's okay. You can come up with a plan for each of those obstacles. Now, the next part is T. T stands for tools or techniques. What is it that you need to do to overcome the O, to overcome the obstacle, right? So the tool and technique might be really simple, like making the call to the bark chip people, right? It might be, my tool is my budget. How much money do I have to spend? How much can I spend? What's allocated to cover the cost of these bark chips, right? And then so that falls under what do we need to do to overcome the obstacle that's getting in the way of you getting at your victory? And the last part is E, emotions. How do you feel about it all? At the beginning, does your goal feel daunting? Do you feel nervous? Do you feel anxious? Do you feel excited? Do you feel hopeful? Do you feel gratitude? What is the feeling? What are the emotions that come up or that you can anticipate coming up throughout the process? Okay, so I'd like to invite you we're going to pause again and go back to your list of goals that you have, your 1 and your 2 and your 3, and take some time to write down your V and your O and your T and your E for each of those, right? Soon, once you get that on paper and your thoughts are down, that goal is, well, it's not all the way done, but you were well on your way to getting it done. Okay, so hit pause and hit play again when you're ready to go. Okay, we're back. Let's take a deep breath. That was a lot of brain work. So make sure you have some water, take a drink of water. And it may be that you want to pause here for a day or so and come back later. But have you talked to your team about this? Do they know, and are they in alignment with what your goals are, what your priorities are? It's often helpful to connect with people to see what their priorities are. What's their list of 10? What is their 1, 2, and 3? Often you may find that you have similar top priorities. Is there a place to collaborate? Is there a place to delegate? Is there a place to realize my obstacle can be best met and be best overcome by other people? So the folks that you work with can be part of your tools or techniques, right? Delegate to the people who do the piece that you need really well, right? So we've already talked about our strengths of our team and what people bring to our program. So you may already have an idea for some of those obstacles, what tools, techniques, what people have the skill to help you overcome that obstacle to get at your victory, right? So communicating with your team and inviting them to collaborate, hearing and listening to what their priorities are is so important and can give you such insight to the team that you work alongside. What's important to them? Is it the same as you, right? So if you choose to pause and come back in a day or two, that's cool. But right now, if you're going to stick with us, just take a deep breath and we'll carry on. Okay, this next chunk is about adapting to an evolving landscape, evolving educational landscape. There are many conversations happening right now about the state of education. Are we doing the best that we can be doing? Now, you are in a visionary leadership position now because you've recently done the work. What is your mission? What is your vision? What are your core values? What do you stand for, right? That is so helpful to know in your bones what it is that you're about, right? With that information, you could take a look at it. Is there new research? Are you reading about something that another school is doing, or an educator who is speaking about the importance of technology in classrooms or the importance of keeping technology out of classrooms? What is what you're hearing about? How does that inform and guide where you are right now and where you plan to be, right? So as we're learning that, every program and every one of you who are here has a little bit of a different take on that, right? So now's the time to continue to think, how am I keeping up with what's happening with technology? Am I utilizing technology that is out there to aid and assist my and my team's ability to serve the children and families to the best of my ability, right? So as the landscape is evolving, so can we, right? So let's talk a little bit about community advocacy, right? And connecting with other programs, other organizations who are in line and they kind of jive with what you're doing, right? You share a common perspective and a common agreement and a common purpose. So as you're thinking about that, maybe it's other schools, other programs where you can be inspired. But also, I'm here to challenge you to think about, what about the places and the people and the businesses and the organizations that are right in your neighborhood, right? Maybe it is a plant landscaping store that you pass by every time you come to work. Or maybe it's a parent who has a business that you find really interesting, or you can imagine, maybe that's something that could help our program, Do you have a family who maybe owns a coffee shop? Would they want to donate coffee for your staff once a week, right? It could be something as simple as that. Or it could be, there's a dentist office down the street. What would happen if you made the connection with the people who work there and who do their work and invite them to come in as a special guest, right? Let's talk about how to brush your teeth. Let's talk to a dog groomer about how a dog is groomed, right? How do you trim their nails? How do you take care of their fur, right? What about, let's see, what other kind of people are in your community? So on your drive the next time from your house to your school, make a mental note of what's around, what's close by. Every neighborhood has a fire station. Have you connected with them? They know you're there, right? Have they been to visit? Have they had the conversation and been a guest visitor to talk about safety with your children and show them, oh, this is what I have to wear when it's time for me to go and fight a fire, right? That's one of the most highly anticipated visits of the school that I worked with for 22 years. Man, the visit by the firefighters was always a really big deal because they brought the truck and children got to sit behind the wheel. A firefighter showed, okay, here I am with just my regular clothes on, and here's what I wear when it's time to go and fight a fire. So here's my big suit, here's my hat, here's my jacket, here are my pants, and look how different I look. And this is really heavy. So think about how those organizations, those businesses, those programs and people can boost and flesh out your program. And what could be really fun too. Okay, so where do you want to connect? What are those people and those places that you think, what would it look like if they came to visit? What would it look like if they were to donate? What would support look like from that particular business or organization or person, right? So think about what would be supportive to your program, right? And it could be also consider, what can I do to support their work? Okay, so now it's time to write. Again, there are a lot of those today. So we're gonna hit the pause button in just a second. And we're gonna think about time and talent and treasure, right? So are there organizations or businesses or individuals that spark your interest, that you think maybe you're not sure exactly how you could collaborate or connect and help serve each other's goals, right? But when we could get creative, just imagine the possibilities. Here's one way that can help guide your idea generating list and machine, if you will. Okay, so we're going to think about time. Who are the people or the businesses or the organizations that could share their time with you that in a way that boosts and supports your program? What about talent? Are there people, organizations, or businesses that have some sort of talent that they could share, that they could donate, that they could use to collaborate with you, that makes your program blossom? And then what about treasure? That's about money, y'all. Are there people, organizations, or businesses who would be interested in donating or sharing in-kind donations of the products that they have, right? A business we connected with was a nursery, and we started a conversation with them, built a relationship with them, and they came every summer camp and led an entire beautiful experience with their children about the parts of a plant, how to put a plant, and we planted sweet little annuals in old shoes. And one, it was adorable, and two, every child got to take one home, and they also got the experience and the time and the knowledge that a master gardener could share with them, right? That's one idea of an infinite amount of ideas that you can come up with, right? So think, who can you ask for their time? Who can you connect with about their talent? And who can you connect with about their treasure? Okay, so we'll pause for a second here, find your pause button, and when you're ready to come back, hit play again. Okay, we're back. Deep breath. Okay, technology. Where to even begin? I want to tell you that I've been reading a book recently. It's called The Distracted Generation. It's Nope, that's not it. It's The Anxious Generation. That's it. And it's really shifted and taught me some things and given me a lot of pause to think about technology and children. Like, when do they get their first smartphone? When do they need it? When do they want it? And those are often two different times. So that's a book I just want to give a shout out about for all educators and families to take a look at and read and consider and have conversations about with your colleagues. So that's like a little thought bubble for this, something that I'm reading right now that's having an impact. Okay, so where do we begin around technology and your program, right? So you can think about it from several different ways, right? What about technology in our classrooms? Do we want to have some sort of method or way to track students' attendance on an iPad or some sort of technology? What about staff signing in and signing out when they come in and out of the classroom? What about do you have a special kind of Bluetooth speaker for music in your classroom? Or is your program about music that is live? And is there a guitar instead of a record player or some sort of digital music device? Right. So we could think about technology in your classroom. And then there's another way that I invite you to think about now, what your program outside of the classroom, how your program outside of the classroom can utilize technology in the way that's the best way to connect with your families that you serve, and the people in your community and the businesses and individuals, right? So here's your next writing prompt. So here it is. Number one, are there places where you feel like you want to grow? Maybe it's on your priority list from earlier, right? Do you have an active social media presence? Is it something that your families or the people that you want to reach are engaged with? Is that a place where you want to grow to be able to use that and utilize that in a more efficient way, or not? What about marketing? How do you market and let others know about your program? Whether it's marketing to families to come, or maybe you have a wait list of people wanting to come to your program. What about staff? How do they know how to find you when they want to come and work for an incredible program like yours? What are the tools and techniques that you use to get the word out about who you are and where you are and what you do? All right. Now, another thing to consider is your communication systems. Have you asked your families, or do you know what is the best way to communicate? Right? I remember years ago at a school that I worked with that had a teacher who resisted sending email newsletters, resisted it 100%. And I get it. She had decades of experience. She really loved crafting and creating a paper newsletter with images and writing and all that sort of thing. And it was beautiful, beautifully done. And there was a conversation about, hey, let's save some paper and maybe save some time. And we wanted to teach, here's a new way to do it. Well, something important to consider was that families really loved, one family even called it wholesome, to get a newsletter on a piece of paper in their child's lunchbox. They really loved that. So check out with your families, because you might have an idea that, oh, we want to do this way because we want families to read our newsletters. And how many of you have had the issue where you really want families to read your newsletters because there's important stuff in there, right? And you just know they don't, right? You put in there newsletter after newsletter, week after week, picture days on the 15th, and then the 15th rolls around and there are a handful of families who went, what? I didn't know this. Yeah, it happens to most schools. Our families are busy and sometimes are distracted and can miss out on really important communication from you. Picture day is one thing, but what about the communication about maybe conferences, or your child is really struggling with this, or here's a way to connect with a specialist to work with your child. There are all sorts of things and topics and important information that we want to share with families. So it's also important that we know what is their language, what reaches them the best. So it might be helpful to consider lots of different ways, right? Is it a paper copy? Or is it an electronic newsletter that goes out via email? Is it smaller texts that go out, text reminders? Do you have something on your website? Do you have another platform that you use to communicate, maybe social media, or maybe something completely new and different, right? Check in with the people that you're communicating with and ask, what's the best way to communicate with you? It may be that it's already in your registration materials. If so, if that question is already in your registration materials, way to go. If it's